The global population continues to face many challenging situations daily. Climate change, financial losses, fear, anxiety, sickness, death. It may sometimes seem like this season of gloom will never end, and many are losing hope. The future may be daunting, but in the midst of your hopelessness, I can assure you that God, who is the creator of this world, still has the world in the palm of his hands, and for this reason, you can still have hope.
There's power in the name of Jesus. Yeah. Salvation in the name of Jesus. Jesus. There's a healing for your soul. It will cleanse you, make you whole. And it's all in the name of Jesus. Oh, yeah. You might need to call tonight. Say, Jesus. Somebody ought to call his name. Jesus. His name is Jesus. His name is Jesus. Jesus. I tell you, call on the name Jesus. He will lift you up and change your life. He will make you feel alright if you just call on the name of Jesus. Jesus. Oh, Jesus. Jesus. Just call on him. Oh.
Well, we welcome you again to the Wednesday night Bible study for the Stonecrest Church of Christ. Thank you so very much for joining us in our continuing study on the message family tree of Jesus. We've been looking at the family tree of Jesus, the scandalous scoundrels that are found in his line and in his lineage. And we've come up to a sister girl by the name of Tamar. At Matthew 1 and verse number 3, the Bible said, and Judah begat Perez and Zerah off from Tamar. And Perez begat Ezram, and Ezram begat Aram. Now, I want you to watch something. It is not obvious on the text, but once you read the story, you're going to come back and say what? Judah begat Perez and Zerah from Tamar. Let me try it again. It's not obvious. And Judah begat Perez and Zerah of Tamar. Now, on just a cursory reading, you would think, okay, so he fathered, and that's what beget means. Judah fathered Perez and Zerah from Tamar. It looks like Judah is their father. Come here. He is their father. Come closer. He's not only their father, he's their grandfather. Say what? Wait a minute. How can it be both their father and grandfather? Unless some hanky-panky has gone on. Well, I want to talk to you tonight about that hanky-panky. But that hanky-panky, listen to me carefully. Listen to what I'm about to say to you. That hanky-panky was part of the providence of God. I want you to watch the screen. The story of Tamar is sandwiched between Joseph and Judah. And it illustrates the providence of God. I need to walk slow. The story of Tamar is sandwiched between Joseph and Judah, and it illustrates the providence of God. You're not going to understand Tamar unless you understand the story of Joseph and Judah. Real quick now. Genesis 37. Joseph and Judah are brothers and sons of Jacob. Jacob has given Joseph a coat of many colors that has created envy and jealousy and sibling rivalry among the 12 sons of Jacob, or the 11 other sons of Jacob. Wasn't wrong for Jacob to give him a special coat. He just should have had 11 more made. Well, it created envy and jealousy to the point where the other boys, say Benjamin, saw him coming one day and decided to kill him. It was Judah that talked his other brothers out of killing Joseph. They put him in a pit, no water in the pit, until they could decide what they're going to do with him. And then some Midianites came by on the way to Egypt. And so they decided that they would sell him for about 20 pieces of silver to the Midianites, get a little money for him and sell him, and then turn around, kill a goat, take the blood of that goat, put it in that special multicolored coat, that coat of many colors, and take the bloody coat back to Jacob, and then tell Jacob that, Poppy, I'm really sorry, but Joe is dead. They deceived him into thinking that he's dead. Joseph is now in Egypt. He's where God needs him to be. But now watch this. I said to you that the story of Tamar is sandwiched between Joseph and Judah. Now, Judah is the one that causes Joseph to still be alive. He is not where God needs him to be. That's in Egypt. But watch Judah be reminded again. Judah is the tribe by which the Lord Jesus Christ will descend. His bloodline, his lineage goes all the way back to the tribe of Judah. But I want you to watch Judah and his deviant, dastardly behavior. Now, in Genesis 38, I remind you again, Genesis 37 through Genesis 50, the storyline, the main character, the plot, it's all about Joseph, except one chapter, and that's chapter 38. That chapter is about Judah. Okay. Let's piece it together. Let's connect some dots here. The story, one more time, the story of Tamar is sandwiched between Joseph and Judah, and it illustrates the providence of God. Okay, just real quick. What is providence? I said to you last week, explained to you last week, that providence is a combination word in English. I'm sorry, it's a compound word in English. Two words coming together to make one word. You have pro and you have vidence. The prefix pro means before. Vidence is where we get our word video from. Video is what you see. Audio is what you hear. Providence is God's attribute where he could see things before they ever happen. In fact, when the Bible talks about who God is, I am that I am. When the Bible talks about God from everlasting to everlasting, watch this. God has no past and he has no future. He just is. That's why when Moses asked him in Exodus 3, verse 14, when I go down to Egypt's land, Pharaoh and others are going to ask me, who has sent me? God said, you tell them, I am sent you. Moses scratched his head. He said, now, Lord, come again. Who did you say you were? He said, tell them, I am that I am. Well, guess what I am means? Well, outside of meaning personal name Jehovah, I am is a term that means, watch this, the self-existing. Ooh. Huh? Watch this, self-existing. In other words, he exists all by and within himself. Ooh. Yeah. I got some water here and I got some Tylenol over in the cabinet. We trust God. We believe in God by faith because God doesn't make any sense. See, sense says you start and you end. That's sense. That's sense to us. But then watch this. How do you have not a start? How do you have not an end? Well, that's who God is. He has no beginning and he has no ending. Watch this. He exists not only by himself, but he exists within himself. Yes. He exists by himself and he exists within himself. Now, I exist. The reason I exist is because I'm breathing air through my lungs. God doesn't need air. God doesn't breathe. I know it doesn't make any sense. That's what I'm trying to tell you. God doesn't make any sense. We trust him. We believe in him by faith. Now, I want you to watch it. One of the many attributes of God is that he's providential. He sees things before they ever happen. Watch this. And because he sees things before they ever happen, one or two things can happen with him. Either he manipulates what he's already seen, or he allows it to take place in order for his greater will and his greater good. Well, that's what has happened to Joseph. Watch this. God has to get him to Egypt. But the way God will get him to Egypt is to allow the hatred of his brothers to put him in a pit, to sell him, send him down to Egypt, let him work for Potiphar, let Potiphar's wife try to seduce him. He ends up in prison, and then from prison he goes to the palace. That's where God needs him to be. But watch this. God had to take him. God had to detour him. Watch this. Through a pit, through Potiphar, through prison, in order to get him to the palace. Okay, okay, that's Joseph. But tell me now about Judah. Well, let me tell you again that providence simply means to see before. God sees things before they happen. If you watch the screen again, providence is the hand of God in the glove of history. In other words, God is working behind the curtains. God is working behind the scenes. Just a few days ago. Now, I know it's February when you watch this program, but I'm recording it at the middle of January. And we just had the celebration of the birthday of an icon in American history, civil rights history, by the name of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And it's amazing that this man was used, in my judgment, by God to change the fabric and the face of segregation and racism, change laws, but by way of his death. Now, King didn't go out there trying to die. He didn't raise his hand and volunteer, not to die, but he did by an assassin because he was a drum major for justice. God used that. And just like God used the blood of our ancestors to make this country great and to change the laws from segregation to integration. Now, a lot of young folk don't appreciate this because they didn't grow up in the time in which some of us over 50 grew up in. We grew up in an era of the tail end of Jim Crow, where we couldn't go to white schools. We had to go to segregated schools. Been there, done that, got a T-shirt from it. We couldn't go into the front of cafeterias, spending the same money, but we had to get our food through the back door. We couldn't ride on the front seat of buses. We couldn't stay in hotels. We couldn't drink out the same water fountain. And praise God, all of that has changed. And one of the reasons this has changed is because God has been working behind the scenes in men and in women. Watch this. God's still working. But I need to hurry up and get on with the story. Providence is the hand of God in the glove of history. Why you put on gloves? Because you don't want to leave any fingerprints, and you don't want to leave any evidence. Uh, and so the evidence is there, but you can't always see it. God is working, but he's not putting it on CNN. He ain't putting it on billboards. He ain't putting it on Facebook. He ain't putting it on Twitter, X, or whatever it is these days. He ain't TikToking. But watch this. He's still working. Providence is God sitting behind uh, the steering wheel of time. I know you think this world looks like it's out of control, but God's steering it. God's hand is on the wheel. It reminds me, First Lady and I were driving back from Florida from a friend Theodore's Butler, Linda Butler now, wedding. And whenever I'm driving, she sees everything and everybody. She said, honey, slow up, there's a cop over there. Honey, slow up, there's a highway patrol over there. Said, you're driving too fast. That's when I'm driving. And then when we were driving back from Florida, and she was saying, boy, you better slow. You better slow your roll. And then it's time for her to drive. Whenever it's time for her to drive, she gets real sleepy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can put her on blast. She gets real sleepy when it's time for her to drive. But when she sees me weaving all across the road, she wakes up. She says, now let me drive. And then when she starts driving, I had to say to her, I said, girlfriend, you do know you driving 90 miles an hour. Was she's listening to her music, and her foot's on the pedal and she's gone. But she can't. She senses that when I'm driving, but she doesn't sense it when she's driving. And then I told her on a number of occasions, I said, Shirley, you just passed the police. You just passed the highway patrol. You just flew right by. And praise the Lord, we didn't get tickets. Now we should have. All I'm saying to you tonight is simply this. God has his hand on the wheels of history, and God is steering this thing. Providence is God's governance of all things. It refers to God's governance of all events and circumstances so as to direct them toward their appointed goal. It is God taking, listen, watch this, because this is about to make some sense to you. It is God taking what you and I would call luck and chance and fate and mistakes and happenstance, and then watch what God does. God stitched them all together in order to achieve his purpose and his plan. Now, I want you to watch a story that unfolds the providence of God. Watch this. It's about Jacob. I'm sorry. It's about Judah. Okay, watch the screen. Genesis 37, it's about Joseph. Genesis 39 through 50, about Joseph. One chapter, 38, is about Judah. We have Joseph in Egypt, but now Judah has gone to Canaan, and he has married a Canaanite woman. And from that Canaanite woman, I'm gonna show you the story at Genesis 38. And from that Canaanite woman, whose name was Shua, they are going to have 3 sons: Onan, and Shelah. Now, when gets grown, Judah finds him a wife who's also Canaanite. Y'all done missed it already. This is the line from which Jesus is coming. And here is the head of that line, Judah, marrying outside of his race, outside of his ethnicity. outside of his culture, outside of his heritage. He marries a Gentile woman. He marries an outsider by the name of Shua. They are going to have 3 sons. The oldest of those sons' name is And now Judah is going to find for him a wife. And her name is going to be Tamar. Now watch this. I'm going to show you in the story where she dresses up after his death. Marries Tamar. He is so wicked. He is so ungodly. God kills him. The Bible never describes his wickedness. All it says is that he was so wicked, so evil, God killed him. All right? Now I want you to watch this. In the unfolding of the story, she's going to dress up his wife and pretend like she's a prostitute. And she's going to end up sleeping with her father-in-law, Judah, so she can gain access to her dead husband's inheritance. And and Tamar marry, and dies before they can ever have children. Now, let me rehearse the story for you, beginning with Judah. Genesis 38. I'm going to give you all these passages so you can go and read them. You can read behind me as I tell the story. All right. Judah marries a Canaanite woman by the name of Shua. You see the passage up there. 3 sons born: Onan, Shelah. Judah finds a wife for his firstborn son, and her name is Tamar. It depends on the translation that you're reading as to the spelling, either Tamar or Thamar, but it depends upon translation. All right, but is so wicked that God kills him. Then Judah imposes the Levirate marriage arrangement on his second son, Onan. Now, let me explain to you what that's about. Deuteronomy 25, 5 and 6 says that when brothers live together, if the oldest brother, in this case, who marries Tamar, is killed or dies, and he leaves no seed, he leaves no offspring, he leaves no sons. Watch this. The Levirate marriage says that since the brothers live together, the next brother is to take the deceased brother's wife, marry her, and have the first son that they have belongs to the deceased brother, so that the deceased brother could have seed on the earth. He gone, he can't have any kids. But the brother who remains can have children. But the first child that's born, the first son that's born, first male that is born, belongs to the deceased brother. Now, of course, you're now sitting here listening to this like, bro, B, really? Yeah. Well, you got to understand the culture of the day. The Jewish people are some of the, in terms of population, their population in terms of other people groups in the world is not great. In fact, they're some of the few folk on the planet. All right? And one way of preserving posterity was for close relatives to marry to keep the bloodline, keep the seed line going. I'm from a family of 15 brothers and sisters. On my father's side, he had one sister, and if memory serves me correctly, 5 or 6 brothers. From my father, there are there are 4 of us. There are actually 5. There's one sister that's not from a mother. Now, I want you to watch this. I ain't trying to put my family's business in the street. I'm just trying to help you to see something here. One of my daddy's brothers was unable to have children. And my father offered me to his brothers who was not able to have children so he could have somebody to raise, call his son. My mother vetoed that. My mother said to my father, you stuck on stupid. They gonna give you my baby, give you my boy. Watch this. She would have been giving away a gospel preacher because she didn't know it at the time. All she knew was that's a baby boy. She'd gone through labor. In other words, mom wasn't about to give me away. All right. But my daddy wanted his brother to have some kids that his brother, though married, was never able to have. Well, in Bible times, what they would do is brothers would marry the wife if the brother was deceased. Well, why did they do that? Well, number one, they didn't have no Social Security. They didn't have the Medicare. See, widows were in a bad way in that day. If you were a widow, and if you couldn't get back to your daddy's house, you had to rent yourself out, and that's what prostitution came in, and that's why it was such a big business. And women would give themselves over to the temple and become temple prostitutes in order to survive. It's going to come up in this story. I want you to watch this. And so, as a result, and besides, she could have access to his portion of the land if she had sons. But remember, they didn't have any kids. So how's she going to have now access to all of that? Well, she won't, unless, of course, the brother marries her. Well, guess what happened? Onan marries her. Now, this ain't kind of stuff we can talk about in Sunday school, but it's in the Bible. And since it's in the Bible, it's okay to talk about it in a certain setting. Now, I want you to watch this. Onan marries Hamar, and he's enjoying the intimacy. He's enjoying the conjugal contact. But watch this. He ain't trying to have no child. That's why I put these scriptures up there, lest you think I'm being messy and I'm being nasty. No, that's why I put these scriptures up there. Onan likes the sex, but don't want the responsibility. Ooh, they sound like some. Well, there are a whole lot of Onans around today. You know some Onans, right? He likes the sex, but don't want the responsibility because he knows that the child would not be his. That's exactly what the text says at Genesis 38 through 10. And watch this. God kills it. Now remember, Judah doesn't have 3 boys. God then killed the first one because of his wickedness. God has killed the second one because of his wickedness and his irresponsibility. He's playing now. He's married to play her, to play with her, but not to be responsible. In fact, when you read the story, there is a term in our lexicon that is called coitus interruptus. Code name to withdraw. As he was having sex with her, and he was um, about to deliver the seed to get her pregnant, he would withdraw and wash it. Go back and read the story, unless you think I'm making this up, and let his seed run out on the ground. And incidentally, that was an ancient form of birth control as well. He wasn't trying to get her pregnant. He was just enjoying the Luther down low. But he did not want to be accountable and responsible, and watch this. God kills him. Watch this. Judah has three sons. There, Onan, and the last one is Shelah. Shelah he's too young to marry Tamar. So what Judah says is, you remain a widow and live in his house. Watch this, until his third son, Shelah, grows up, and then she can marry him and have sons. I'm glad I got the scriptures up there on the board for you so you can read this story. Because I know you sit at home saying, bruh, B. Shelah has now grown up, and he can now assume the responsibility of the Levirate marriage arrangement. But Judah said, no, she's a black widow. Every son that I send into her ends up dead. This is my last boy. I ain't going to do it. So he seemingly reneges on his promise to give her his final son, Shelah, when he's grown up. He's grown up now. And Judah said, nope. She's a black widow. Ain't going to happen. She ain't going to kill no more of my boys. Watch this. When Tamar realizes that Judah and Judah's wife Shua by this time has died, and he's feeling real lonely. When he hears Luther down low, he wants to take a walk. He wants to take a journey. And now Judah decides to go to a place called Timnah, where his sheep are being sheared. And Tamar hears that he's going to Timnah. So she dresses up like a prostitute, like a temple prostitute. And she stands by the roadside. And watch this. When that old cougar comes by, he can't help himself. He sees this attractive young woman standing by the roadside. He says, oh, hey. He says, hey. And that's a little Barclayology there, but you get the point. And so she positions herself by the roadside where Judah is traveling. And the old cougar just can't help himself. I better read this to you. Genesis 38, verse 15. When Judah saw her, he thought that she was a prostitute, but she had covered her face. He turned to her at the roadside and said, come, let me come into you. For he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. Oh, this plot is about to thicken. She said, what will you give me that you may come into me? Well, watch this. They did negotiate a price. Judah offers her a young goat. Watch this. That he's going to send to her after the tango. Judah said, now, baby girl, when we finish up in here, when we cut the lights out down here in Motel 6, I'm going to send you a young goat. And Tamar says in her mind, no, 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 no. I was born at night, but it wasn't last night. You done lied to me before. Now, he didn't know who she was, but she knew who he was. And so she's saying in her mind, no, you done promised me, your younger son, you're not delivered on your promise. Your word cannot be trusted. And I ain't going to take your word. Now watch this. She says, I need some collateral. 38:17, Genesis 38:17. She said, I need a down payment. I need some collateral that you're going to send me this young goat. Well, I don't have to go. She said, well, I tell you what, let me take as a pledge until the goat arrives. She said, that signet cord around your neck. You know, it's almost like the chain that we wear across his arm. She said that signet chain with the cord on it around your neck. And then let me have your staff. And watch this. Now remember, his wife is dead. He's lonely. And when she gets the collateral, the signet cord around his neck, the staff, she lets him come in. And watch this. In one encounter, she gets pregnant. Genesis 38, verse 18. Now, Tang goes over, paid the bill at No-Tail Motel. When Judah attempts to receive his items back, that is his collateral, that is his chain, cord, and staff, and he sends one of his trusted men by the name of Harah back to that spot on the roadside leading to Timnah. And he said, with the gold in his hand, he said, now I'm looking for that prostitute who's been standing by the roadside. And the men of the area said, man, ain't no temple prostitute here. Ain't no prostitute been here. Now watch this. The next verse, Genesis 38, 22 and 23 said, for fear of embarrassment, Judah says to the messenger, man, let's let this thing alone. Let's let well enough alone. He said, let her keep those items. See, he thinks nobody knows, but him and that prostitute. All right. Oh, watch how the plot turns. And watch how providence works. 3 months later, 3 months, yeah. She got pregnant that night. But she didn't start showing the 3 months later. When Judah finds out that his daughter-in-law is pregnant, he commands, he orders her death. Interesting. We don't have time to talk about the double standards that went on at that time. This is a patriarchal society where the head of the households has certain rights and privileges that are unquestioned. Well, that's the time and the age and the culture that this story is written in. So he hears that she's pregnant, and he knows it's not his son. 2 of them are dead, and so he knows not his son. So he says, "Go get her," and then he says, "Burn her." Well, wait a minute, but this is Judah. This is the tribe where Jesus was from. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm going to put all this together for you in the final lesson. He commands that she be burned. So he sends for him. Burn her. Wicked woman. She drops the dime on her. Watch this. She says to those men, okay, before you burn me, I am pregnant by the man whose items these are. Before you burn me, before you light the match, I'm pregnant by the man who these items belong to. And she produced that collateral, that signet, cord, and staff. She says, find the man that owned these items, and we can identify the father. She's pregnant with twins. And guess who the baby's father turned out to be? Are you ready for this? The baby's father turns out to be the children's grandfather. Ooh. And that's Judah. And one of those twin boys' name is Perez. And Perez keeps Judah's seed line going. Isn't God awesome? Had she not done what she did, Judah's seed line would have ended. Ooh-wee. Our God is an awesome God. And Matthew places her in the genealogical seed line descendancy of the Lord Jesus Christ. And look at the last slide. In the providence of God, if Tamar did not take this initiative, the seed line to Jesus would have ended. Okay, Sister Betty, I'm having too much fun. Bad preacher, bad preacher. Watch this. Look at my last slide for tonight. It is of note that while Tamar dresses up and pretends to be a prostitute, there is a legitimate prostitute in the family tree of Jesus, and she wasn't pretending. In fact, she owned brothel. Okay, let me do this again for you. And I bid you good night. It is of note that while Tamar dresses up and pretends to be a prostitute, there is a legitimate prostitute in the seed line of Jesus, and she wasn't pretending. In fact, she owned the service, and her name was Rahab. I'm going to let you stew on that one until we meet again. May the Lord of the harvest bless you. and may he bless you real good.